Obsessed with the media since the age of 9. Chasing news in Houston, never out of line. I underpaid in action, rocket on the beat, with stories from the front line. Keep them all repeat.
Houston media blogger Mike McGuff.
Well, journalist Mike McGuff.
Mike McGuff, welcome to Houston Life.
Breaking news, get the scoop. Mike McGuff got the truth.
Jonathan Novack left KPRC Channel 2 all the way back in 2010, and 14 years later, he is back at CW39 as their chief meteorologist. The station offered a chance for me to talk with Jonathan, where we went into a lot of details, including why he decided to come back to Houston, and since he's been working in Los Angeles TV since he left Texas. We're going to talk about the differences between Southern California TV and Houston. But first, tonight is a screening of my documentary Runaway Radio, covering the wild years of Rock 101 KLOL. And if you can't make it, make sure you check it out right here on DVD, or you can stream it on Tubi or purchase or rent wherever you rent and buy your favorite movies. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jonathan Novack. So Jonathan, you know, we hear a lot about Californians moving to Texas. You were one of them, but you clearly already have a history here. So what made you want to come back? Did you fall in love with it when you were at KPRC in the past?
Yeah, you know, when I was looking, and I told my agent I wanted to look for 3 places. It was LA, Boston, which is where I'm from, and Houston. And I've always had fond memories in Houston. I made a lot of great friends in Houston, and it's always been a place that I've thought about coming back to. And so it was, yeah, it's the people here, my memories here. You know, it was humid as heck, but that aside, that was sort of like, when I moved from Houston, I remember it was 95, but it felt like it was 108 degrees outside. Moving everything into a moving truck, you know, that was difficult. But that aside, I have really great memories from this city. And so coming back was easy. I mean, it was one of the few places that I was considering looking for work. And so, yeah, it's worked out. I'm pretty happy.
Talk about, like, what are the differences, would you say, between, you've been in LA for a long time now. What are the differences between news in Houston and LA? Because I think what a lot of viewers don't understand is, you know, different cities, different markets are totally different. And one thing that works in one city might not work in another city. So what do you see as the differences? Well,
the first thing that just came to mind was car chases, for one. Car chases are an integral part of an LA newscast. They can take up an entire hour newscast with a single car chase. It is a fascinating thing. And you know what? I think it works. It is just people I know I want to watch. And so car chases happen a lot. They'll go through groupings, like where you'll find 3 or 4 seem to happen in LA, and then it'll be a break, and then you'll get it. And so some nights, 2-3 nights in a row, you'll have no weather because the whole newscast is taken up with the car chase. And so for me, I think that's the first thing that just stood out. Aside from that, you know, I think that, well, look, I mean, as far as being at CW39, we're like David and Goliath, right? I mean, we're a smaller operation, and we do a lot with a little. You don't have that in LA. As far as I experienced anywhere, you don't really have that. LA, every station has a chopper. LA, every station has a whole, you know, a lot of resources and reporters and live trucks. And, you know, we're a few people doing the work of many in a way. We're not in a way, it's just the reality of it. And so I think there's something very commendable about that. But that's also a big difference as far as coming here in terms of the newscast operation process juxtaposed against a Los Angeles station. So
you're coming into CW39 where it's, you know, no wait, weather and traffic, very focused on what you're doing in particular. There's a lot of weather hits for at least what 3 to 4 hours. Basically, you're constantly doing different weather segments.
Yeah.
Your background actually works well with this because you have done other things besides television news. You've done as I've been blogging about you for years, since probably I think the first I wrote about you was in 2010, if you can believe that. Makes me feel old. But that you've done stand-up comedy, you've even done reality TV show, like you were a contestant on The Bachelorette. You do bring something
What
different.
was the what?
Well, I
Yeah,
don't know, something called The Bachelorette. I think it
I
used to
don't
be on
even know.
ABC or something. But you bring something different
Yeah.
besides a meteorological background where you're great at forecasting and can do all that. But with a morning show like what you're doing at CW39, you got to be able to fill other roles, like you're saying, than just strictly doing the weather. So how does your background help you in kind of giving it a different dimension?
Well, let me say this, that all of those things for me are all about the same thing. And what I mean is, uh, they're all an expression of the self with the end goal being to connect with people. So whether you're an artist and you're painting a painting, or a musician, you're writing a song, you're on air, connecting with people through the camera, through your on-camera performance, they're all expressions of the self or the individual. And the goal is to connect with people. I mean, you don't write a song and then just never play. If you usually, you most of the time you want to play it for people to hear, or you have a desire at least for people to hear it. And so the reason that is because that is the essence of that person, that individual, and it's out there for other people to absorb it with the intention of making a connection. And so for me, all of those things have the same result, or at least they're the same process, the same goal with a different process. So comedy, whether it's doing weather and being in a newscast and having that performance element in there through the camera, bringing a lot of energy, which is key, by the way. Whether it's music, because I'm a musician as well. They're all the same thing. I get the same thing, and it's all coming from the same place. This desire to connect with people. So that's how I would answer that. I think did that answer your question? I think, yeah. Okay.
I think so. And also, you told me before we started that this actual job at Channel 39 is a reunion
Mm-hmm.
with one of your coworkers. Talk about that.
Sharon Melton and we worked at SVN in Miami, and we were both there in the early 2000s. It'd be there about 2004 to 7 is when I was there. And she was and is, and she's always been this very talented and professional, but like solid on-air talent. I mean, just unflappable, credible, uh, and and interesting. Very great. Her energy, and so okay, let me just say, energy is the key to on-camera performance, to connecting with people through a camera. It's a challenge, and if you don't bring energy, it's not going to happen. Unless you're Ben Stein, it's not going to happen because that's like his shtick, right? So she has a great energy that she brings to the camera, to the newscast, and it's really awesome to be able to work with her because of that fact. It makes it really easy. It makes it a lot of fun. You could be having a bad day, and she could be having a bad day, and it would be easy because of that. So that's what So I'm grateful and lucky to be working alongside her in the newscasts, especially when you're up at like really early in the morning too. It can be a challenge, so it makes it especially easier in that regard.
Well, I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, you literally just left LA where you're working an evening shift, 2 hours behind Central on Pacific time. What has it been like shifting to a new shift and then you're 2 hours ahead all of a sudden?
I appreciate you asking that. I got in at midnight on the 23rd, and I was at work at 3:30 that morning, 3 hours later.
Wow,
So
I knew
yeah.
it was a fast turnaround because you were still in LA and then suddenly you were here, like on the air. It seemed a very quick turnaround to me too.
Yep.
Are you trying to get your bearings adjusted for like sleep and time and
I appreciate you. I appreciate your you're an observant person, and you must be a very considerate person and get, gifts for people's birthdays and things like that. You must be very good about all that. Because it's a great observation. Yes, I hit the ground running. I mean, it was 3 hours. I got here and I was on air 3 or 4 hours later. I was in a hotel the first couple of weeks I was here, and looking for a place and dealing with the movers and trying to coordinate all that. And finding a place was a bit of a challenge. And then I got in a place, and there were some issues I've been dealing with, because the place had flooded actually, which I was hoping wouldn't be an issue. But what it actually has done for me, and I don't mean to get too far off the rails here, but it's allowed me to understand what a lot of people actually have gone through in terms of being in a home that's flooded in Houston. And that's a lot of people, right? So, it creates so many problems. And from the yard, and just having to deal with dead trees, and the landscaping issues, and to dealing with bugs and things like that. I mean, I don't want to get too personal about it all, but it's stuff that I've had to deal with from a flooded home. And so but I'm there, and everything's great now. Everything's working out. But funny enough, it has allowed me to sort of empathize, even, to a good degree, with people who have been affected by flooding over the years, and with Harvey, of course, and Ike. When I was here for Ike, by the way, and that was devastating for so many people as well. But yeah, so that was my first 2 weeks here. It was hit the ground running, morning show, sleep adjustment, finding a place, and trying my best to keep my dog happy, which was tough, because she's my heart. My dog is my heart. She's my center focus of sort of what decisions I make. I try to make them surrounding her. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Well, I do want to end with this. I remember writing when you were at KPRC, you got to interview Metallica. And I even wrote in my post how envious I was. What was that like? I mean, as a huge Metallica fan, I already have tickets for the upcoming tour at NRG.
Really?
What was that like? Are you a Metallica fan, or?
Kirk Hammett. Growing up, I was actually a headbanger at one point, as they say. Yeah, I was into Metallica, and Faith No More was awesome. I loved Faith No More, and Megadeth.
Having a midlife crisis right now. Just to name a song. I'm having a midlife crisis right now. Yes. Such a killer song, actually.
Yes. Yeah, it's so funny. Alice in Chains. I was a huge Megadeth fan, though, which you talk about Metallica. Megadeth was, and I feel bad for Dave is Mustaine. I should know that now. My memory is kind of bad, but because he still holds a grudge, I think, against the band, doesn't he?
Oh, sort of, yeah. I mean, it goes back and forth, but that was actually the first band I ever saw live, that I wanted to go to, was Megadeth. Yeah.
Well, I was into, when I was it must have been somewhere around maybe 4th or 5th grade, I think, because I remember being on a bus and thinking, I was talking to someone about a band called Bolt Thrower.
I've heard of them.
The double bass drum, throat screaming. I don't know. So there was a period of my life, I was really young though, where I was even into that kind of, really heavy, hard metal music. It's funny that we're talking about this, but I've always liked Metallica because they've been able to bridge the gap between, or just bridge the years, and sustain and still be relevant and do really great things with music. And especially these days where it's they're an older group and they're still doing great things and connecting with a lot of people out there. So that's funny. So but let me just say that I am a huge Dave Matthews fan. That is my group. And I've always been, and I write music, I play music. And out of all the songs I've learned, it's only his songs for some reason that I can remember to play. His licks are so unique that I can always seem to remember his songs, but I can't remember sort of other hit songs that I've learned. So yeah, Dave Matthews, Metallica, they're a little different, but I like them both. So
that was definitely a certain generation.
What's
Yeah, a
that?
certain generation would like both of those, right? If you were in the 90s, they were such both huge acts, especially during that time. So,
Yeah, I mean, I like James Taylor, Paul Simon. Those are some of my favorite songwriters. To Dave Matthews, Metallica, Faith No More, and the only to Bone Thugs and Harmony. I was a huge Bone Thugs
yeah.
and Harmony fan. Remember them in the '90s? Well, now too, they're still around, I think. But if it's good music, it's good music. I mean, if it hits the soul in the right way, it's good. I'm not into as much electronic stuff, but I'm sure there's good stuff there. I guess if there's any music where I'm like, I don't get it, that would be like, that's probably the music there. I'm like, I don't understand why is this, turn that record down. But, so yeah, that would be it. Otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of great music that spans. I even like some country music, which I know a lot of people would probably be like, you better like country music.
I'm
So
actually coming around to country in my older years. I wasn't necessarily a country fan when I was younger, but my wife is starting to play stuff for me. I'm learning it. I got to interview Lyle Lovett for my documentary, so like
wow.
I've now seen him a couple times. We just saw Robert Earl Keen at his Fan Appreciation Day, so I'm getting into more of that Texas country. So it
Do you
definitely has
play
its
music?
rock roots to it. So.
Do you play an instrument?
I used to play guitar badly in high school and then in college a little bit and then kind of gave it up. I want to get back into it. It's just, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to practice for me, honestly.
Yeah, I get that. Is it difficult because of the time, or because of your fingers need to acclimate to the strings, and you need to
It's
get.
probably everything. It's probably just lack of it's probably like I love the idea of doing it, but like I must not be passionate enough to actually sit down and do it. That was always my problem.
Yeah.
But I
No.
love music, love rock music. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm way into hearing about it and learning about it, just maybe not playing it myself. Maybe that's not my skill set, never will be. But well,
Well,
thank you. Anything else you want to add?
well, I mean, I was actually just going to say that's a bucket list of mine is to. I mean, I love music, but you know how you have that. A lot of people have this sort of dream that they don't maybe talk about all the time, or that it's not at the forefront. But that's one of my, if not the main sort of dream that is out there, is to even just to cut an album, because I have like a couple of hundred songs I've written over 26 years, and some of them are really good, I think. And I would love to do that one day. So I was going to say, if you ever pick up the guitar and you decide you want to, you can form a band.
We can get with Ron Trevino at KHOU who plays guitar. We can start a band together. So we just need to find drummers. There used to actually be a rock band consisting of TV journalists back in, I think, in the 80s. They would play
Really?
around. So.
It's an interesting concept. I mean, yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting thing. And we've all sort of, sound, it'd be funny if we all kind of sounded newsy though when we sang. It'll be like, and we sang
Right.
about, we, you know, um, it could be country, like leading the news tonight. Like it'd be like breaking news. Everything would be about like the news world and just like a newscast, but it's just musically infused.
Well,
I
I
don't
used to
know.
work with Carlo Cicchetto, who's the main anchor at I guess at the CBS station in San Diego. And we talked about back then we were going to start a punk band called IFB just because of the news element of it. We wear suits and wear IFBs and play punk music because it was easier to play than some of the other stuff. So,
It's a
but
great idea.
that dream never came true.
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting concept. I like that IFB. The IFBs. By the way, there's a rule for band names. If you want to be a successful band, there's a rule that I've come up with in the past. I always said this: no more. Your band name can be no more than 5 words. I'm sorry, 3 words and 5 syllables, unless it's a person's name, like the Dave Matthews Band, and if it's longer than that, either if people don't, people will shorten it, like Big Head Todd and the Monsters. People call them Big Head Todd, right? So people always will gravitate, like Pearl Jam, Megadeth, Metallica, no more than 5 syllables, no more than 3 words, and you have the chance of being a big successful band. Otherwise, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So
Yeah,
there you
no
go.
one can remember the long names, right?
That's
It gets
true.
confusing after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to turn